There's a lot of material here that we can chew and digest forever. So we're gonna try to make it all happen somehow in 50 minutes or less. That would be really fun. And now I'm starting late. So the first thing I'm gonna do is give this little present away to somebody whose birthday is it closest to today. Anybody got a birthday this month? Nobody? No March people. Okay, so then let's go birthday coming up. So anybody got April birthday?
I win. I'm gonna win. I win.
And then
say it.
May.
Say it. That's me.
Oh, I got a May birthday.
All right,
I'm May
who's first. May 1st.
Fifth.
Definitely win.
6, whatever it is.
So this is a patient of mine a while back just like had this passion for helping people with the recipe stuff. And so she made a little mini recipe book. So there's some of the online recipes that packed into a book. So it's kind of fun. So that's fun. Little giveaway.
It is fun.
We have some other giveaways, but we don't have raffle tickets, right? So I have to dream up reasons to give away something to
Yes.
somebody. Good luck.
Just do it for me, that's all. That's all. Think of
Just
anything.
give it to you.
How about goals? You can talk about goals.
Oh, I know what I could do is find out
I have a
who's the
Trump card.
oldest established patient in here. Not oldest age, but been in the office long. All right, so let's carry on. So the first thing I always like to tell you about is, my big why. Who am I? What are we doing here? And, I thought a little bit about this because, as you guys know, I'm working with my mom on a pretty close to every other day basis, just helping her with her Alzheimer's. And this becomes, of course, more and more of a something for myself that I want to make and have made part of my big why. And when I say big why is like, why do I do what I do? And why do I plan my recipes and exercise and plan my vitamins and all that kind of stuff is because I want to enjoy retirement, my husband. And my parents come to mind about this conversation because on May 8th, so not by your birthday, but a little after your birthday, my parents are celebrating 65 years of marriage. Right? Isn't that exciting? So I calculated that I have to live to be 115 in order to match my parents, right? So if I'm going to get there, I got to take a lot of vitamins, right? So, and I'm kind of at a pretty good start, but so there's our big purpose. And one of the things that's difficult for me and challenging for me that I hope to inspire in you guys, and training myself for this class has inspired me to do, is to get a little bit more passionate and diligent and remembering to take my vitamins. Who has that problem, right? Aren't we terrible? So you're good at remembering, huh? Yeah. So and then I'm always like wanting somebody else to just go, here, this is what you're supposed to, instead of playing in the cabinet. So it makes it worthwhile, right? That you would look into why you want to do that and remind yourself how much better you feel when you are eating the right things and doing the right things in your body. So when we talk about food, of course, the first thing we want to do with vitamins is get our resources out of our food, right? That should be the number one thing to do. And so when we look back at what does war have to do with it, back when war was happening, they were trying to analyze the number of people per area and whether or not we had enough food resources. And then they had to break down food resources into the protein, carbohydrate, fat, cholesterol. These are all the things that you guys are used to seeing on the back of a food label. That was actually originated back in World War II when they were actually looking at how well we're feeding ourselves as a nation and getting the essential things that we're supposed to be getting out of our food and in our diet. And what we know about today and measuring these kinds of things is that there are nutritional deficiencies that we didn't have back then that we are currently experiencing today in the food, even when we think we're eating the right food and the right amount of food, that we're lacking the vitamins in. There's a lot of reasons why there's nutritional deficiencies in the foods that we're eating right now. One of the most important things is that we're not really giving enough time for crop turnover. So even we read in the Bible, and we know that we're doing this even worse today, but in the Bible, they talk about planting a crop and then every 7 years resting and letting the soil replenish the minerals and the things. So all these minerals and things that we measure that are in our food actually get in the food because it's like the plant absorbs it out of the ground. So if there's nothing to absorb out of the ground, it's not getting in the food. And so the problem with that is not only do we not rest soil, but we multi-crop in a year. Right, we will crop something early and then knock all that down and crop something else right behind it, and so our food is lacking the vitamin nutrition and the right nutrients actually to be in it. So it's important not just to eat food to feel full, but to eat food that's dense in nutrients, because if you're not getting the right nutrients, then you're not only not getting nutrients, but there's some foods that we're eating today that are actually anti-nutrient. Who can tell me what an anti-nutrient is?
Something yum.
Pop quiz. I got a bottle for the brave one.
Stuff you put on lawns and the grass.
No.
No, none of that.
Not a bad guess though, good for guessing.
It don't have sugar?
Say it again.
Sugar?
Sugar is an anti-nutrient, but what about it? What does the word anti-nutrient mean? So sugar is definitely an anti-nutrient.
It prevents your body from absorbing nutrients.
Right.
Yay.
It actually works against your body. So when you eat sugar, it not only doesn't have nutrition in it, but it robs your body of nutrition when you eat it.
Wow.
Right?
Even natural sugars?
Even natural sugars will do that too.
Why did
So-
they create them then? Well, yeah, that's the whole today.
Big conversation.
Yes.
And it's not even so much that it wasn't so much something in that plant, but it's the way we're refining it. And all the refining of all the plants and nutrients that we are utilizing are damaging the food density of any, nutrient deficiency, so then we're lacking it. So they talk about like even eating one apple in 1945, you would have to eat 3 apples today to equal the same amount of nutrients that used to be, and that's minus all the pesticides and toxins and things like that are in and on top of it. So when you ask the question, why do we have so much of this problem? We know we're getting a right amount of carbs and proteins and all these measurements of these kinds of foods. Where are we having the other thing that's actually driving this problem is that we are having so much damage to our digestive system that we're actually not absorbing nutrients. So this is actually something that's near and dear to my heart, because 13 years ago when I started to discover that I was having an autoimmune condition, and it made me change the way I not only eat but the way I teach all of you, and why I do what I do today is because I was not absorbing vitamins. I had an inflamed gut, which also led to leaky gut, and then led to an autoimmune condition. That condition of my body was not allowing me to absorb all the vitamins I could possibly eat, which is actually a little disheartening when you stop and think about it, because if you're working hard at taking and eating all the right things and your body's just not absorbing it, that's another problem altogether. Right? And we see this in some people. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody who's overweight or having a sickness, but sometimes you can see even a person who's really super thin, that they're not absorbing nutrients properly, and they can eat as much as they possibly can stand to eat, and more than you could even think about eating, and never gain weight. These are nutrient deficient. They're not metabolizing the food they're eating properly, so they're not absorbing any of it. So those are the 2 reasons. So the content of your food, what's essential inside of it, is your macro and micronutrients, right? So these 2 things are broken down into macro, which is you need more of, micro, don't need as much of these nutrients. So your macronutrients consist of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. You guys are pretty used to hearing those words and terms. And carbohydrates don't necessarily mean bread. You don't have to look at a carbohydrate and right away mean that means bread, because there's plenty of carbohydrates in vegetables that we're eating. As a matter of fact, we'll get to that little list that I gave you to look at. But you don't lack carbs if you don't eat any. So I know we have people on advanced plan who don't eat any breads or grains and these kinds of things. They're still getting carbs in their diet. They're just not as high of a density or a consistency of carbohydrates in their percentage of the nutrients that they're getting in. We have the food pyramids that try to teach us how to do these things the right way, and we've been taught the wrong way, right? So have you guys seen we literally turn the food pyramid upside down now? And there's a really interesting, I think, kind of funny YouTube video about it that has the little comic skit from, and they're terrible. I can't remember their names right now.
Minions or?
Yeah, they're not the Minions, but they're those little cartoon people, and they swear a lot.
Ren and Stimpy.
South Park.
South Park, thank you.
It's
A
okay.
South Park joke that's on YouTube that talks about the food pyramid and turning it upside down, and it's hilarious because, of course, they pick on the government for teaching everybody to eat the wrong way, and then, now we know we're supposed to do it the other way around. Anyway, so no longer should it be little fats, it should be a lot of fats and very little carbohydrates. And really coming down to a variety of foods, which we're going to talk about that too. And then micronutrients being the smaller things you need in vitamins, like vitamin A, which you get that in carrots and orange vegetables. And then pre-vitamin A that makes your body absorb properly is also in there, as well as vitamin E is a micronutrient. And then we have also minerals, which we're going to attach it. So vitamin C, vitamin E, all the B vitamins, those are all micronutrients. So what's interesting about that is that there are some serious deficiencies that can cause some pretty bad health problems, but it takes very little to actually fix that health problem when we're talking about micronutrients, because you don't need a lot, but you need them, right? And so you got to make sure you're getting some foods with it in it. So eating a diet of fast food and foods that are processed without any nutrients in it, or what we also see that when we were talking about back in the war days when we're looking at what food consistently has in it, but they're missing something naturally, the government went, oh, we need more vitamin A or vitamin whatever, and they added it to food, right? You've seen that before on, like, especially on milk. But they also, in cereals, which is so crazy, isn't it? You take this non-food, an anti-nutrient, quite frankly, because it's cereal, and then add nutrients in it that somehow or another are supposed to be getting absorbed. But so there's a lot of really bad choices for getting micronutrients, and it's really important to get them in the right ways. And through foods, naturally, foods that are minimally processed is the goal you want to do for that. And then minerals are the other things, and minerals are going to be like your calcium. Calcium is really important. Potassium is important. And potassium doesn't have to come from a banana. As a matter of fact, avocados have just as much potassium in it as a banana does, and doesn't have all the sugar in it, and it's not lots of high fat. So avocados are really good to eat for that instead. And so minerals, again, are things that you need, as well as electrolytes. Electrolytes are literally energized nutrient that actually energizes your cells and allows nervous system to conduct properly. So, and you lack electrolytes, you feel kind of like somebody turned your power off. You feel a little bit run down, and you just can't get awake and that kind of stuff. And I actually experienced this before one time doing a detox during my autoimmune days that I was trying to recover from, that I just took an electrolyte drink that was mostly water with some added minerals in it, and it made you feel all better again. So it's interesting how you can deplete and run that stuff down and have just a little bit make a change again. So if we know all the things that we need, and then where is the problem? And some of the problems that we talked a little bit about the absorption in your own body. We also are talking about not only how the food crops are being turned over too fast or not absorbing the right amount of nutrients, but then we've also got damaged nutrition by spraying crops. We're putting pesticides on the crops. We're putting stuff right directly into the seeds, which is the GMO'd food. And there are people outside of this room that are not me that think that GMO food was the best thing that ever happened to this country, because we're saving the starving people. And what we're doing is actually killing more people instead of saving more people. I mean, we're making people eat, but then they're getting more and more sickness and disease out of the whole thing. And I think that that's starting to come in a big enough circle that anytime we talk about revolutions that have to happen in our country, it's like the big people with all the money are winning the battle right now, but there's enough of us little people who are getting really mad and aren't taking it anymore, that are putting their foot down, that are causing that to change. Because buying this stuff is what's gonna, you know, make it go away, like not buying it. So if you stop buying GMO stuff and you actually say, hey, I want to get all stuff that, you know, is clean and not toxified, then all of a sudden they're not going to have a market for GMO stuff, right? And that's how changes happen. And you can see it's happening already, right? Because you can go to Meijer's today and get organic food, right? And Aldi's too. That's absolutely true.
Kroger.
And then also one of the things that we're doing to damage food is in how we're cooking food, because you can grab all the nutrient and the vitamins right out of food by cooking it to death. So you have to be careful with that. It's best if you have some of your foods raw and some steamed, not necessarily everything all the same way, because your body can't handle all raw food. But when you steam things, that does a little less damage to removing the vitamins in it. Boiling things are terrible to do, and microwave, don't do that at all. Microwaves are really bad for your food. They've done studies already on lab rats to prove that lab rats that eat microwave foods develop tumors and cancer. And all the nutrients out of the food is being zapped right out of it. So you go to the store and you buy yourself some perfectly healthy organic vegetables and a organic wild caught salmon or whatever, and you eat it and you go, wow, that was really good, and then you take it the next day to work and you throw it in the microwave and you just zapped all the nutrients out of it. So my recommendations: eat it cold, which is perfectly fine the next day cold, or warm it up in a toaster oven or convection oven of some kind. Stay away from microwaves. I have a microwave in my house, but not because I choose to have it there. It was kind of there when I got there. And I use it to warm up a heating pad. That is it. I don't even warm up tea.
You can kill the germs
To do
off
it.
your sponge too.
Right. Right. Yes, you can do that.
But I don't
I haven't
have a
thought about that,
microwave
but that's
anymore.
not a bad idea. It
Yeah.
kills live things,
It
so
does.
not germs.
Right.
Right. So, changing some of our habits and way of doing that. And one of the things you want to do with your note paper, which everybody's got your little notepad with you, is jot down a couple things that you hear me say that you go, I probably should change that. There's something I need to change. If you walk away 2 to 5 things tonight that you're gonna go change, it's a process. You're changing one thing at a time, and everybody's starting at a different place. If you're still at a place where you're drinking pop, then tonight might just be the night you're done drinking pop, right? But if you learned several things and you've been to several classes, because I know I'm looking around, I see you guys have been to lots of them before, it's time to pick the next thing that you're gonna do, right? What's the next thing that's kind of tugging at your heart that you go, I really know I should probably change this. What is that gonna be, right? So pay attention to that. So our diet is also causing us to be nutrient deficient, and the diet, the standard diet that we have today, it's energy dense, but it's energy dense short term, because it's all sugar and carbs that make us have all this energy to burn, and then we crash directly afterwards. And those high sugar things, and they're also filled with damaged fats, which damaged fats are anti-nutrients. They actually rob your body of nutrition when they do that. The processed foods, like we talked about, and artificial sweeteners are having cancer-causing things in them that, again, are anti-nutrients. So you're eating something that not only is not supplying you with nutrition, and it's also stealing nutrition from your body in the process. You're actually causing harm to yourself every time you eat that, right? So tell yourself, everybody touch their heart and go, I'm worth not eating sugar. I'm worth it, right? I'm gonna stay away from empty carbs, something that doesn't have any nutrients in it, right? And make a decision every time you go to eat something. Is this gonna help me or harm me? Right? Help me or harm me? Those are questions you gotta ask. Our body, lifestyle, and how about let's talk a little bit about genes. So sometimes we feel a little bit like we might be stuck where we are because that's how the rest of my family was, and genetically designed to be like this. Anybody feel like that? Nobody in this room, because you guys all know better, right? But what we in Maximize Living know and understand and teach in our office is that there is something called epigenetics. And epigenetics means that you are not a victim of your genes. as a matter of fact, you have just as many healthy, thin, vibrant, energy producing, muscular genes as you do tired, overweight, causing cancer, building disease genes. You have all of those genes, right? It just depends on which ones you trigger by what lifestyle you pick. So the reason why it ends up looking like what you've seen ancestors do, and not even so much ancestors, but maybe just directly your parents do, is because you have the same habits they do. So picking different habits and different lifestyle will produce a different outcome for you. And I point that out to you is not only because this is not just happening, like, this didn't just happen to this guy, this generation, and the guy before him. There's about 4 or 5 generations before this guy. Did we see people in our country that look like this 3 generations ago? No, we didn't. And what's different is they're not the genes. It's how we're feeding the genes. And quite frankly, I don't like to think of anybody necessarily as a victim, but a lot of people don't know the truth. And what they don't know truth is that they're maybe even trying to eat something healthy, and they're not only addicted to something that's not healthy, addicted to something that's an anti-nutrient, but they are purposefully addicted to it by manufacturers who are putting excitotoxins in food that make you want it over and over and over again. French fries,
Chips,
potato chips,
Doritos.
or everything in a fast food restaurant has got an added chemical ingredient that makes your brain go, oh, that was so much fun, I want more. And it's called an excitotoxin. And it does exactly that to your brain. It stimulates your brain to make you think that that is what just made you happy. And it's a lie. It's a bunch of garbage, right? So, lifestyle factors will change that stuff. And it's literally, when you think about sugar and processed sugar and high fructose corn syrup and all the preservatives and the toxins with these excitotoxins in them are actually a drug, then the way to get that out of your system and out of your life is to stop eating it. You can't just a little bit at a time stop, right? Think about it like an alcoholic wouldn't just say, well, I'm gonna go down. They need a rehab for sugar.
Yeah.
It's an absolute real problem, and I'm quite frankly one of them. I can't eat sugar because if I have a little bit of sugar, I want more sugar. Yeah, and so I can't even have it. And that has to be the mentality or the way that we look and approach that stuff, because it is absolutely a drug. The definition of sugar, the way that it's processed and produced and refined, is a drug.
There's so much
And it's-
diabetes type 2 in this country.
It's a big
off the
problem.
chart.
Yeah, and when we talk about these lifestyle choices, they are creating not only diabetes and type 2 diabetes, and then obesity, which then also leads to diabetes, but you don't necessarily have to be obese for that. And then that process leads right to cancer, because your body doesn't process sugar properly. And a body that doesn't process sugar properly has too much sugar in the bloodstream, then your body has to, in order to survive, mutate to cells and structure that live on sugar. Well, a cell that lives on sugar is the definition of a cancer cell, right? So you're creating that environment and making it, and then because you have the environment, it makes your body crave it over and over and over again. So the only way to get off of that is to just cold turkey get rid of it. And you can't just get rid of sugar and not carbs, because your brain will turn the carb into the sugar and you'll just keep craving that. Right, so you've got to get rid of both of those things. And we're going to talk about how to do that too a little bit later on. So that's why we have the 5 essentials. And the 5 essentials are all about your body doesn't need help healing, it just needs no interference. Right? And so when we look at all these 5 essentials, I'm not going to go over them in detail because we're going to go through them right here. So nutrition. You need to have a varied diet. And it's important to not only know what not to eat, but it's also important to know what to eat. Right? So I think we covered up, doesn't it? I think we covered a lot of what not to eat. Let's also talk a little bit about what to eat. And a varied diet means, this is one of the things that we do wrong a lot, is we get in a habit of eating the same thing over and over again. Right? And you get used to, this was good, and it was easy to make, and I don't have to try to figure out what to do with this different kind of food and whether I like it or not, and so I'm just going to stay in this habit of eating these same foods. And it's wrong. You need to vary the foods that you And so you should change the things, not only the things that you're eating, the times of the day that you're eating, things should fluctuate. And quite frankly, the very first thing on your list if you're changing your diet is that we don't need as much food as we're eating. Many times we're eating because we're bored and not necessarily because we're hungry or lacking nutrition. And then when you are eating foods that are varied, we want them to be nutrient dense food. So just like I said earlier, when you're holding something in front of you that you're deciding if you want to eat, and you go, donut or salad, right? Or donut or an avocado, those conversations are, let's see, the donut's gonna rob my vitamins, the avocado's gonna contribute to my vitamins, I'm gonna choose the avocado, right? And so looking,
avocado donut?
Right, that'd be a good thing. So you want foods that actually have nutrients in it, right, that you're eating. So make choices, again, based on whether or not there's the right stuff in there. And then decoding the labels, stuff that actually has more nutrients in it is going to be a more nutrient dense food. So you're reading some of these percentages, you might see that it has, carbs and fats and these kind of things, but then it has no vitamin A, no vitamin B, right? You want vitamins to actually be in there. So things that are more of that, quite frankly, I suggest that you eat things that don't even have a label like this on it, right? Which is why I gave you this other list that you're going to have in front of you, because those are going to be the things that are going to have all the vitamins and nutrients in it that you want. But when you are eating something that's in this kind of container, you want to eat things that don't have necessarily the right combinations of things, but the right ingredients. Like looking at the ingredient list is more important than looking at the scale of what's in it. But what's important in the scale of what's in it is whether or not there's any vitamins or nutrition in there, right? And where is the vitamin coming from? So like if you read the back of the whey protein shake that we have here, that has a label on it like that, because obviously protein shake it didn't just come off a tree, right? But then when you read that and you see what vitamin content is in it, that tells you how much more nutrient dense what you're eating is. Does that make sense? So there's two plans, maximize lean. There's a core plan and an advanced plan. The core plan, you're going to eat lots of healthy fats. Healthy fats are going to be like your grapeseed oil, your olive oil. You're going to cook it in high heat with coconut oil and grass-fed butter. They're going to be important things for higher heats. You want to use full-fat dairy instead of low-fat things. So when you're buying dairy products, you want them to be organic, so they don't have a lot of additives and antibiotics and things like that in it, but you want it to be whole fat and not any added sugar. So when you read the label, it's going to say it has some grams of sugar because God put sugar, in dairy. But when you read the ingredients, it should just have the milk and the dairy and the yogurt stuff in it and not added sugar, right? So reading the ingredient list. You want to eat naturally raised animals and wild caught fish, not farm raised. Farm raised can have more toxins in it from being in the little swimming pool, and it doesn't have all the vitamins in it that it would naturally get out in the wild. And then you want a variety of fruits and vegetables. On the core plan, you're going to eat some grains. You want them to be less than a third of your plate, like it should be a small percentage of your plate. And then that they should be ancient and hard, like long cooked grains. If you're on the core plan, your rice, your brown rice, your nutrients out of grains should be something that take 50 minutes to cook, not warm it up in the microwave or instant something or another, right? You want that stuff. And a variety of fruits and vegetables and plant-based carbohydrates. And then the advanced plan, we eliminate all grains. So you do no grains on the advanced plan. And you do also reduce the amount of fruits that you're using. So fruits should be berries, green apples, and grapefruits. All the other fruit, even though it's natural fruit, is higher in sugar. And so you don't want to have a high glycemic sugar fruit. And you also want to use a plant-based carbohydrates, but you want to, then again, referring to your list in front of you, which by now I should be holding mine up. Do I have one? I do. I have extra if somebody didn't get one. You got a lot. You got one of these cut in half, right? So long skinny thing. That tells you the carbs that are in certain vegetables. And you want to you don't have to completely avoid on the advanced plans some things like sweet potatoes and acorn squash and that kind of stuff, but you should minimize how often you have them. Like if you're having parsnips and carrots every single day, then that's too much of a carb in, your diet plan.
2 times a week, 3 times a week?
Yeah, really,
Once a week?
really I would minimize it to once.
Okay. It says
And
potato up there?
yeah, potatoes are considered, of course, a vegetable. We don't necessarily suggest that you use it, but a sweet potato has 17 carbs,
I
and a
love
regular
sweet
potato has
potato.
15. And so
So
what you want to do when you look at this, you want to go, what has 5 and 4?
Yeah.
Not how many times can I have the stuff that has 15, but how many times can I, right? And you just want to increase these things. Because those things are going to be the things that you're going to run into when you're maybe out at a restaurant or at a friend's house eating, that you want to minimize that. Then when you're at home choosing stuff to eat, you want to pick the stuff that's lower on that number. And I know my chart's a little hard to read and it'll blow you away if you thought celery said 15 carbs, but it says 1.5,
Yeah.
not
But I
15.
thought,
And celery I definitely highly recommend because it also, the digestion of celery and other raw vegetables like that actually burn calories while you're digesting it, right? So it raises your metabolism, that's a good thing. Okay, so nutritional deficiencies. I have a couple of extra notes on here because there's a lot of details about what you would be deficient in. I know some of you in the back can't read this, so I'm going to help you with that. But let's first talk about calcium. So calcium is a category, is used, or it's recommended to be watched for, maybe it's low and you have to add calcium, is what these mean. So people who are more commonly deficient in these vitamins would be children between the ages of 9 and 18, and pregnant or lactating women, and older adults. Right, so there's some people that aren't necessarily in that category, right? So like women who aren't pregnant or lactating, who are between the ages of 30 and 45 or 50, maybe not so much need calcium, right? So we kind of look at that, and you're still going to get calcium in your diet, but sometimes you have to question whether or not you need to add calcium if you're not necessarily in this group of, threat to your. The other thing to know about calcium is that your body also needs to use calcium properly. And sometimes we're worried about osteoporosis, and you're thinking about, well, I want to make sure my bones are dense. You could actually eat a lot of calcium or take calcium supplements and still have osteoporosis because your body's not using the calcium properly. It actually then robs calcium out of your bone because calcium is something that your body uses to lower acidity. People who eat a lot of sugar and a lot of carbs and a lot of anti-nutrients have a very high acidic internal gut. Their flora in their body is acidic, and when you're acidic, you can die. So your body's always self-healing and self-regulating. So when your body notices, we're too acidic, that's dangerous, I might die, it starts pulling calcium to buffer itself out of your bones. That's actually what causes. That's actually what causes osteoporosis.
Wow.
Is that your body is so acidic that it steals bone from your bone, calcium from your bone, right? And so the way to keep it in there, even if you're taking it, you still want it to be in there, not be taken back out, is by getting the right diet, get on the advanced plan so you're not acidic, and then exercise, which causes your body to be resistant exercise, stimulates your bones to go, oh, I need more strength there, and the muscle pulling on the bone makes the bone stronger, is what keeps calcium in your bone.
Does caffeine from coffee also pull out the calcium?
Yes, because caffeine from coffee, not just caffeine from coffee, but coffee itself actually makes you high acidic. You need 30 glasses of water to counteract a cup of coffee. Do you hear that, Mary Fry? Coffee addict.
30
glasses of water to counteract the acidity of a cup of coffee.
Tea is the same thing.
You gotta drink a lot of water.
Tea would be
Tea's
the same
probably not as intense as coffee, but yes,
I still-
tea,
thing.
especially
Even decaf
dark
is okay.
tea. Like green tea's not as bad, but dark
Black,
tea.
I drink black.
I've heard
Yeah.
not to deviate,
Deviate
not to deviate.
off of coffee?
had to get off of the coffee. We don't.
I know, because I'm probably addicted. You guys are gonna make me quit drinking coffee today.
Good.
And then when the calcium also helps with, so the black little section at the bottom, muscle cramps, abnormal heart rhythms, because it also helps with muscle and your heart's a muscle. So calcium is really important for that. Vitamin D, there was a really long list on there, and then I changed it to everybody in Michigan. Because the truth of the matter is, it's just everybody in Michigan. If you live in Michigan, I don't care where you are in this country, because even if you live in Florida, people in Florida hide from the sun. And then they go out in the sun, they cover themselves up with stuff, and they don't ever get vitamin D there either. But in the Midwest, we're terrible at it. In the wintertime especially, but you need to supplement D, and it needs to be D3. And our studies and research shows that your body absorbs D3 properly when you have the right amount of probiotics in your body. So we put it in one supplement, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. If now some of the things that are interesting about vitamin D is if you're high stressed, your D is going to be low, and lower the D is, the more stressed you are, the more weight you gain. If you don't have enough D, it actually makes you gain weight. It also causes inflammation. Anybody's trying to fight inflammation and you don't take enough D vitamin. And you really should have a blood serum test to find out. Your D vitamin serum, your blood serum should be between 70 to 90 and not 40. And 40 is where your medical doctor says, hey, this is okay. But the research tells us, most current research, 70 to 90 levels fight cancer. So there's no reason not to have 70 to 90 levels of vitamin D. So if you got blood serum tested and you find out you only have 40, I think you should take 10,000 D a day in order to get it up. 5,000 would be to maintain 70 to 90. 10,000 IUs to get it up there. Okay. Iron, most often young kids, preschool age kids, menstruating women, and vegetarians also lack iron because they aren't eating any red meat. If you have anemia, you're fatigued, pale, and you have dull or thinning hair, those are reasons that you may have an iron deficiency, and reasons that would actually help that if you took it. B12, again, older adults lack B12 and vegetarians, and B12 is also one of the things that helps with brain function. It helps with your energy. It actually affects numbness and tingling in your extremities, so it actually gets rid of that. I mean, that causes it. It also helps with balance. If you're a person, that's why older people, a lot of times they do B12 shots, but we recommend they can do a B12 tablet. And you can add a B12 tablet on top of a B complex. Usually talk about it like 1,000 milligrams. Ours in the office, we have just a B complex, so the B12 is in it. But if you need more than that, you can do a separate one. So if you have inflammation, memory loss, fatigue, swelling, that's where you want to add a B12 vitamin to your diet or your regimen. Folate, also really important in our country because a lot of our anti-nutrients that we're getting in our food actually pulls folate out of your body. And if you're a person who has, anybody heard of MTHFR, which is the gene that tells you that you are more of a difficult person to be able to detox. So if you have the MTHFR gene, that's something that they test now. We're doing genetic testing to find out if you, can detox properly from, and more people with MTHFR have cancer. So it's kind of a really important gene. Sometimes your medical doctor can test for it, but usually it has to be a natural path of some kind that does that kind of stuff. But you don't detox well, you need a methylfolate as a precursor for that. So that's a pretty common thing and can be easily found out if you need to do that. That's, again, folate. That's a long list of people. It kind of almost falls in that category of everybody in our country because we're all kind of deficient in folate from what we're doing with our diets. But if you particularly have trouble with fatigue, you have trouble with mouth sores, like canker sore kind of things, or if you have trouble with growing your hair, and your nails and your hair, your skin, maybe you have a lot of rashes and inflammation and irritation, those are more signs, again, that you would maybe need folate into your diet. And then magnesium, again, lots of people can utilize and need magnesium. So all that blue section says children between ages of 14 to 18, pregnant and lactating women, older adults, and people specifically, when we're talking about magnesium, have gastrointestinal disease like Crohn's disease or diverticulitis, celiac disease. People with type 2 diabetes also need magnesium, and long-term alcoholism, and then again older adults, which pretty much I say across the bottom of each one of these minerals is deficient in older adults, ends up being in the category. I don't know what they necessarily, where they put the line in older adults. I'm officially old enough to be called a senior citizen when I go to a movie, but I don't consider myself necessarily an older adult. I'm not sure where that line, not sure where the guideline doesn't say what they mean by older, but if you have trouble with loss of appetite, you have a little nausea, magnesium helps with that. Fatigue, weakness. It also has kind of calming effect to it when you take it in the evening, helps you go to sleep at night. Magnesium helps your D and your calcium absorb properly in your body. So again, all these things. Now here's the really good news. That's a lot of information. I know I'm kind of throwing at you all at once. When we look at all these supplements, and there's a lot of these details that we just got done giving you are also things that you're just getting in your food. Like if you listen to the beginning of this class that we're talking about, is that if you make sure that you're getting nutrient concentrated healthy food that is not processed to death, right? The best way to do that is to have fresh food, but then the next thing would be maybe frozen food before you would eat anything out of a can or in a box, right? And so that's the order of when you want to get something as close as how God made it. And if you could pluck it right out of the tree or out of the garden, even better, right? So you're going to cover all that stuff for most of the time. But when you're struggling with something, if you're either struggling to change a diagnosis or you're struggling to come off of some medication, because we all know in this room, if you're stuck on a medication, by default, you automatically have some type of diagnosis that, you know, would be better and healthier if you changed it, right? Because a lot of times people think, well, I have high blood pressure and I have high cholesterol, but I take these 2 pills, so now they're fine. And my doctor says, I'm fine, just keep taking those pills. But the truth of the matter is, you're still sick. Right? So if you're taking something and you have a goal to change that, then changing nutrition is going to be your first step in doing something like that. When we talk about quality and pure supplements, we're talking about stuff that actually is made from food so that it's actually something your body can recognize and absorb. If you're eating a manufactured vitamin that is not it's actually synthetic instead of whole food. Now, synthetic vitamin is no better than taking a chunk of this plaster over here to try to absorb that into your body. Like, your body is not going to absorb the vitamin that looks like vitamin, but it's going to absorb the vitamin that is made from whole food, which is where your body's used to getting it from. So all your vitamins should be whole food. Now, say right off the get-go, that means that those are more expensive vitamins when they're whole food vitamins. And if you're not spending a little bit of money on your vitamins, you're actually wasting money on your vitamins. Because you're buying vitamins that are not providing you with the vitamins that you need, and so you're really just throwing away money. In the process, you might as well just eat a bunch of quarters instead of actually getting anything that's actually helping your body, right? So that's why we target and talk about having whole food vitamins. So we do have a couple of slides I'm going to go over with you, and then we can also do some, I actually wanted to show this chart to you too, because I forgot while I was doing that list. You have the copy of that, you know, the food deficiencies that I just went over on that other slide. That's what this thing is. You guys have that in your handout. So if you can see on there all the different things that in the categories of the signs that you might be deficient, that would kind of help you determine if not just in your whole foods or a multivitamin, because I think in general we need something multivitamin, but if you have something going on in one of these categories, you may have to supplement something a little bit, you know, extra in some of those areas. When you do that, the goals of that kind of stuff is to kind of help your body get back to normal, and then possibly be, again, well enough that you wouldn't necessarily need these extra things, and should be getting most of your vitamins just out of your food. Does that make sense? Okay. So the men and women's multivitamin, again, are supplements that are whole food. The supplements are easily absorbed, and because they're whole food, they don't like hurt your stomach if you take it on an empty stomach. And somebody earlier asked me today too, when you're taking vitamins, oh, it was you. If you're taking vitamins, if you have to take, so many this time and so many at that time, and try to remember them all throughout the day, that it is best if you can break them up. So if you have to take, 3 of something to be the equal amount of the daily supply, then if you can't remember to take them the rest of the day, yes, you should just take them all and, let your body absorb it. But it's better if you have to take 2 or 4 or whatever, something that you can take some in the morning and then some again at night. So when I do that for myself, I literally like doing my vitamins in the morning before I leave the house, and then I set aside my afternoon vitamins and I stuff them in my pocket before I leave, and somewhere throughout the rest of the day, I take those while I'm working, right? So you just kind of carry them with you. Okay. D3 and probiotics, this is what we talked about earlier, that everybody needs D3. This D3 that we use is a 5,000 IU D3. And then it has probiotics right in it. It's the best D3 I've seen on the market, and we've seen patients go with who are having their blood serum levels tested and changed with that recommendation of doing 10,000 if you're really low, and 5,000 to keep it at that level, and being actually very productive with this supplement. So it's actually a good source of D3. Optimal omegas, we have essential fatty acids that your body needs. They're called essential fatty acids because you can't get them normally out of just your normal foods. You have to go out of your way to actually add them to your diet. And omegas and essential fatty acids are important for brain health and brain function, and brain cells to actually be nutrified. And then nerve conductivity is used for fat cells. Also, hormones that are made in your body are produced on fat cells. Like, you need fat cells and you need cholesterol to actually produce hormones in your body. And optimal omegas are things you want to supplement, and you want to stop all the low-fat garbage, because low-fat diets have actually caused us to be a nation of brain damage, high increase of Alzheimer's in our country, and the hormone imbalances. And I say hormone imbalances is not just a male-female thing, but there is an orchestra of hormones that your body has to go through just to digest your food, to go to sleep, to wake up, right? I can't even list all the things that your body miraculously is designed to do, and does it in, the perfect order, because your immune system, your nervous system runs all that stuff and relies on nutrients to make all that happen. Right, so optimal omegas fall into those categories. Really important for brain health. I can't say that one enough. Right, and I know I've got parents that are suffering with brain health right now, and why? Because in the 70s, my dad had a heart attack. No, when he was 70, which would have been in the 90s. He had a heart attack and was told that he had to have bypass surgery, and he said, I don't want to do any surgery. I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to do this, do that. And they gave him all the hospital recommendations. Go on this low-fat diet, right? And he did all the low-fat stuff, followed all the rules for a whole entire year, and then they went back and said, nope, you're still clogged, and you gotta have, and he ended up having bypass surgery done. And then what he got in his brain was, it doesn't matter what I do with food. I'm just gonna be this, and I got this heart disease problem. And now what he has is 5 kids who all know the right way to eat, who don't have heart disease. Epigenetics? I think so. Pro-magnesium. So this is magnesium in a liquid form. It's in liquid form because you absorb it easier. A lot of people have trouble absorbing magnesium. You are probably taking a tablet of magnesium that is really difficult for your body to actually utilize. And it can even be difficult to absorb it in your digestive system. The liquid form is the easiest way to do that, but they also, for people who have even trouble doing that, they have a spray on your skin form that you can spray on magnesium. But magnesium's a tricky one for, especially if you have any inflammatory bowel conditions. It's difficult to absorb, so the liquid one helps that happen better. We have a complete vitamin C. I've learned a lot about vitamin C more recently, because I used to think that vitamin C in big numbers was like somehow great, because wow, I got all these milligrams of vitamin C, but then it's actually not nutrient dense vitamin C. and their better vitamin C's are actually the ones that actually are more intense but have less vitamin C value in it. So if you're buying ones that are 1,000 or 2,000 or whatever, they're actually not all vitamin C and your body's not absorbing it properly, and it's better to have the ones that are in a little bit lower number because it's more proper vitamin C that your body recognizes and you get more out of it that way. So it's kind of interesting to see that, but this one is again easily absorbed and you don't need 10,000 of it a day. And as a matter of fact, when you do need more vitamin C in your body, that's when they start talking about IV vitamin C. So your body can't really absorb too much all at once without giving you side effects like diarrhea and those kind of things. So this one's actually a very comfortable and well absorbed one to do. We do have a bundle tonight on your handout. So on your handout you have the order form. And the page before the order form, you have the bundle. So when we bundle stuff together, we do 20% off the bundle. So if you're gonna get, several of these things, it's like you get a couple and then get one free. When you look at this, it's got a men's and a women's on here, but the bundle is actually either or. It's not both. So you either get a man bundle or a female bundle, right? And then vitamin C, Optimum Omega, and then B complex. Which I don't have B complex on this slide, so I want to talk a little bit about B complex. But B vitamins are really important, and we talk about B12 on here, but we threw B complex into this mix because of stress. And we're going to actually talk a little bit about stress on our side when we get to mindset. But stress is a real big problem with absorbing vitamins and losing weight and getting good sleep, and all those things factor in. And so we decided to make B complex part of the bundle because it's really important for your body to actually get to the point where you can actually even absorb vitamins to de-stress you with the B complex. So that's why I made it that. Oxygen, and I need to know my time. If that's a time clock. Thank you. Oxygen and exercise is really important for absorption. It improves digestion when you exercise, so you gotta get moving. Of course, we recommend you do a max T3 workout, so high intensity workouts. Something that makes you burst or sprint train really fast. Heavy weight resistance, something that makes you quickly get your heart rate up and then quickly recover and quickly get your heart rate up. Many of you in this room have the max T3 workout and have even done it with us before, but I can't impress upon you enough how important it is. Sometimes we get used to complacency and we get used to what we're used to doing, and so we start walking and getting back to our old style of exercise, and it's not helping you. As a matter of fact, it's harming you. It's making you more stressed and more hungry. And so high intensity workouts are actually working towards not only improving your digestion, but increasing your metabolism and getting you, digesting and using your nutrients better. So it's really important to do that. Minimize toxins. We talked a lot about minimizing toxins in food. Don't put your food in a microwave, would also toxify your food. But we're exposed to plastics and toxins in things sometimes that we wear, like in makeup. You're absorbing toxins in makeup. Your toothpaste, you gotta watch what's in your toothpaste. Fluoride and SLS are bad things to have in your toothpaste. You wanna make sure those are not in there. Deodorant has aluminum and heavy metals in it. You wanna make sure you have a natural deodorant and not an antiperspirant. That's where usually you get the aluminums in. Your plastic bottles is better if you're drinking out of stainless steel or glass and not plastic. Also, putting your food in plastic is bad. Of course, what we talked about with GMOs, we kind of make sure that you know where your food's coming from so that you're not putting toxins in your food as well. And then while you're getting more conscious about what you're eating, just improving and detoxing improves digestion. We do have a form of detoxing here in the office. Actually, the protein drinks and the whey proteins, which we're actually talking about here, and the max greens are things that actually can help detoxify, along with our cellular detox system. So while you're avoiding putting toxins in, if you've never done a detox program, it would be a good idea to do that. Usually recommend a detox for 90 days if you've never done one before, and then once you've detoxed, we maybe do one every quarter after that. And then daily defense is also one of the recommendations for helping recover if you are toxic. or you're inflamed in your body from toxicity, while you're getting detoxed, daily defense is the natural way of bringing down inflammation is turmeric and curcumin in it. So that's going to help your body get rid of inflammation. Okay, and then mindset. So mindset, what we think about and how we think is going to regulate whether we're in stress, fight or flight, or relaxation and digestion mode. And you go either way. If your brain is stuck in fight or flight, you're not digesting well. And then in relaxation digest, your body can. So when your body's in stress, it actually changes the gene expression by releasing cortisol in your body. Cortisol is that stress hormone that makes us gain weight around the gut area. And it puts you into constant fight or flight, which shuts down digestion. So you want to make sure that you're doing stuff to reduce stress in your life so that you aren't having metabolism problems and gut issues. And if you are struggling with gut issues, a good place to start in one of the essentials is how much relaxation time are you taking for yourself? Are you sitting down and breathing and relaxing and actually chewing your food when you're eating? Are you doing stuff for self-help for yourself in between? Doing anything that's relaxing, or taking up some yoga, or if you can't sit down and talk out some issues with people, maybe writing some stuff. Journaling helps a whole bunch to de-stress yourself. So what you do with your mind and your brain affects your digestive system. And you want to avoid stress-related foods. So stress-related foods are foods that are going to cause you to feel bloated and gassy and have cravings. Those are the stress-related foods like the sugar we talked about. But there can be some stress-related foods that aren't just on our little easy list. So when we're saying don't eat any grains, don't eat any lower your artificial carbs, and don't eat any sugar, but there can be things that your body's responding to in a negative way, which we use an IgG test for. If you want to know more about that, we're not going to talk about it so much tonight, but we do test that, and we have it available for you here to send out for a test. The IgG test will tell you if some other food is causing your body to react in a stress inflammatory way, like you might be inflammatory when you eat eggs, or you might be inflammatory when you have carrots or kale or some other thing that seems like it's a perfectly healthy thing, but your body has an immune response to it by getting inflammation. And those are also things you want to eliminate. There are some standards that are most common are the eggs and the dairy. So if you're having gut issues and you don't want an IgG test, you can start by just getting rid of dairy and eggs initially and see how your body responds to that. So it's really important to pay attention to how your body responds to food you're eating. So, and focusing on having a healthy mindset. When I talk about healthy mindset, I also like to just give affirmations to yourself and maybe even write down. Sometimes we forget what we're talking about right here, right now, and then you get home and you go, I can't remember what the heck Dr. Mary said, right? So write a few things down. Remind yourself that you're worth taking the extra time to find the right kind of nutrients and the right kind of food, and that you're worthy of not another donut, but actually, an avocado or an avocado donut or whatever it is. And then core chiropractic, we're going to kind of blow through here a little bit quickly because I probably don't have to tell most of you in this room that your nervous system is going to regulate how well the rest of your body functions. And if you're eating all these healthy nutrients and your nervous system's not working properly, nothing's going to digest well. Your spinal cord goes into tension when there's subluxation happening, and when you get spinal cord tension, your body automatically responds with a fight or flight response. Your spinal cord goes into tension and hormones go into your brain that make your body think there's a tiger in the room. And then you live in that tension and that stress. It causes your body to release all the stress hormones that we talked about and be in fight or flight mode, which makes everything malfunction and nothing absorbed properly. Right? So it's not only important to get the right foods in, but it's very important to have the right mindset and get your power turned on. Right? And get chiropractic care. I'm not going to go through warning signs because most of you guys know that stuff. Action steps real quick is to make sure you're eating an advanced plan lifestyle. If we're recommending if you're losing weight or trying to come off of medication. If you're not trying to come off medication or not trying to lose weight, you do core plan. Plan your meals ahead of time. And plan not only your meals ahead of time, but plan your vitamins. It's a good habit also, even though I need to do a better job at it, my husband's usually better at this than me, is putting out your vitamins before you go to bed at night. Before you go to bed at night, put your vitamins on the counter. So all you have to do when you're half awake in the morning is just take them and not have to figure it all out. And then I talk about testing if you're not sure about any inflammatory foods or diseases that you have that you're trying to change. Writing affirmations for yourself, put a couple up on a mirror, remind yourself maybe on your refrigerator that you're making the right choice when you're eating something. Do a workout 3 to 5 times a day. A week. Yep, but a day. They have no time to do anything else. 3 to 5 times a week. And then I always say, teach somebody else this. Right? This is not only is it important that you don't keep it to yourself because other people need your help, but it's also helps you when you teach somebody else. Because if you teach somebody else, then you go, yeah, that's right. I'm doing that, and it just kind of affirms what you're doing. Even just being here tonight with all these other people who have like-minded, doesn't it kind of make you just kind of go like, oh yeah, that's why I do that. I know, I'm doing the right thing. And I do the same thing when I go pick up our meat order, which some of you guys know we do a co-op here for the farm. When I go to do the co-op for the farm, I can tell you what joy I have just standing in that line, because there's a ton of people in that parking lot who are all there getting health conscious, meat for their families. And it's just, community is really important, and it's really just affirming for who we are as people. So you want to reach out to somebody else that you care about and teach them what you know. And invite them to stuff. Bring them to a dinner. Bring them to one of our classes, and so that more people can know this kind of stuff. Because remember, this is how we're going to change. We have a revolution because all of us demand it, and then little at a time it changes. And then just never quit. You're going to mess up. Don't quit. Right? Mess up, get back up again. And keep going. Right? Still living and breathing, you can still do it. Upcoming events, I have a Don't Be Fooled dinner coming up on April 1st, April Fool's Day. And we say don't be fooled by the medical model and pharmaceutical industry who are lying to people on a daily basis that health comes from a pill, and it doesn't. So we're going to teach people about that, and it's at our dinner is at Olive Garden. You're allowed to bring up to 5 guests with you. We'll have sign-up sheets in the office here next week. But we bring people to that class, we'll teach them, and then be able to do a one-on-one talking with them, answering questions that they might have, and dinner's on me. And then right before Easter, on the Wednesday, April 7th, we are doing a Easter food drive for a place,